Welcome everybody to AstrorisaMoonTalkRadio. We are going to have a wonderful discussion for this upcoming moon time, which is going to be April 4th. We have a very powerful moon. It is a full moon in Libra. It is a moon that is the third blood moon. And we're also having a moon time that is a lunar eclipse. So we have a whole lot going on, trying to keep all that in the head, trying to remember what we're dealing with. It's a lot we're dealing with. So let's begin our show. We have a very, very wonderful guest. We have Baba Ogunmola, who is a very gifted priest of Ogun, and he is a priest who truly understands his Orisa Ogun, and we're going to be talking about Ogun because that is an energy that is very strong and prevalent with this Libra moon that's coming up. And I just want to say, because he really understands Ogun, he is a strong advocate for following both cultural and spiritual law, and that's really important. We're going to talk more about Ogun. We're going to talk about the Pataki for this moon time. We're going to talk about the previous moon and how that relates to this one. So we're just going to really just dig in and just vibe a little bit. So welcome to the show.
Thank you. Thank you for having me. It's an honor to be here this evening.
Yes, indeed. So is there anything that you would like to share with us about yourself? Any talents or anything like that?
No, I'm very modest.
I
will say that I'm still learning.
Okay.
I will share that. I'm still learning, still growing, still have a long way to go, but it's a beautiful process.
I say. Well, that's good. Mm-hmm. That's good to know. You see what type of personality he is, and very, very honest, very and just an all-around very good person. So I'm really glad to have you here on our show. Let's just dive right on into this moon time. I wanted to do this show because it is a powerful moon. There's a lot of energy going on, and so many times lately I've been doing just the show myself, and I wanted to get some other input in so people can hear what other people are seeing, observing, and experiencing. And so that's where I want to go with this right now. So let's jump back to the previous new moon. That was the new moon was in Pisces, and that was actually for March 20th, and that moon was the moon that ushered in the spring vernal equinox. That was also a solar eclipse. So you see what kind of powerful energy we have. We had the previous moon for March 20th. That was the moon that ushered in spring and let us know that that was the last moon for winter, the new moon for springtime, a solar eclipse, just a lot going on, and then now we're still following that up. So with that previous moon time, that moon was talking about, through the proverb, the patient blames the doctor for his illness. Now, for you all who have not received the moon forecast, I just want to talk a little bit about what that was about. So that moon time was a Piscean moon, of course, archetype of Olokun, Neptunian energy, very much about being responsible, looking at yourself. It had a lot of opportunities coming with that moon. When I talk about opportunities coming with the moon, that means that the moon pinpoints certain kind of vibrations that are occurring during a particular time. So it's letting you know what is going to be ushered in or what is going to move out. And so that was a moon time that was allowing or ushering in or pinpointing that many of us across the board were going to receive some type of opportunity to change something. An outside change would have been changing jobs. It would have been something related to money. Inside change, again, looking at yourself. What kind of changes are going on? There was a lot of physical changes, people being really aware of what's going on with their bodies. It was about group dynamics, which is still playing on right now. And it was really about developing within your own personal institution something that you need to work on and look at. So with that, I want to move on to Baba Ogunmola.
Mm-hmm. Yes.
Because I know you've been looking at this. I know you get the reports.
Yeah, I'm a big fan. I'm a big fan and supporter.
All right, I say, and I know that you really be working your show when it comes to dealing with these moon time energies. So what did you want to talk about with this? What did you see with this past moon that we were in?
This past moon, one of the things that I thought was important, and we were right in line with it, was that it calls for us to do something collectively to ignite the passion, ignite excitement. And so, last weekend we got together and we did a ball for the warriors. We did rituals for the warriors, the Libra Ogun, Oshosi, and Osun, led by your husband. And the community came together here and we did it, and we had a very, very good time, very good energy. And it has people still feeling energy from that now, even moving into this period that we're in. We also had a bembe for Ogun, and we paraded Ogun, and again, everybody participated. We had a really, really good time, and it was something that we could do together as a community, where we could move into the spring with energy and zest and passion, that the report called for.
Indeed, indeed. And so, with that, let's look at some of those messages that it was talking about. Because, like, one of the messages it talked about was continue plugging away or evaluate if it's time to take another approach. And so, in that instance, you all decided that this is time to take this approach. It wasn't actually the 21st,
right,
but it was in line with, okay, we're going to go ahead and do something for the warriors. The energies of that moon time, Pisces, also pointed out that it was time to do constant approach to making necessary changes in our lives, something that needs to really be changed. And so when we did the celebration for the warriors, then it was bigger, it was more
right.
people. We brought more people in.
And we did it, and we took more of a leadership role in it, in the planning, in the organization, in the execution.
Right, the men did.
Yeah.
Yes, yes, exactly.
And doing it here locally was a big change also, because a lot of times we will go to other communities to participate in what they're doing. And part of the change was for us to do it here and to begin doing it here. And with that first step, the ancestors and Orisa have taken 2-3 steps on our behalf. And so there's other plans now in the works to do other things, as a result. But we needed to do that first step in changing things around a bit, having another approach, which was for us to take more of that leadership role in the rituals, and to actually parade Ogun. We never paraded Ogun before, So we did that, and it's, again, all those things have opened up other opportunities.
And it's interesting that with such a focus on Ogun, as opposed to all the warriors. Of course, all the warriors were taken care of, and we looked at all them, but really working Ogun, because that is really, in hindsight, that is the energy that's really ruling this Libra moon time. Though it's Libra, and though that deals with Oshun, and there is a very strong aspect of Oshun with this moon time. But I mean, Ogun is the man of the hour for this time frame. He's truly the man of the hour. You know, the other moon message also talked about during that Piscean moon time of March 20th, moving into the next 3 weeks, really, that during this moon time, others can really recognize a growing agitation as their plates continue to become full of work, the commitments, etc., and they can come to a place now where they're saying something has to give. So that's a whole other aspect of that moon time. One, we all came together.
Right.
And then, of course, people are feeling, the other aspect is people just feeling like there's just so much on my plate.
Right, right. And that ties in good, too, with that Ogun energy because, again, clearing obstacles out of the way. You know, Ogun is a problem-solving type of Orisha. Ogun is not an energy that you go to and you whine and complain and cry, you know, oh, woe is me. You know, Ogun is the type of energy that you deal when you say, hey, this is the situation that I have. Baba, clear the obstacles out of my way so I can advance. You know, help me clear the obstacles out of my own way so that I can advance. So when you're talking about cutting away ties and severing unnecessary relationships, Ogun can help in that aspect. The energy of Ogun can help in that type of situation. You know?
And you mentioned the severing of ties and all that because that is also notated or discussed in the previous moon time where people really, the energy of that moon time, that Piscean moon time was about, really kind of look at yourself.
Yeah.
And see who you roll with,
Right.
what you're rolling with. That's still kind of playing itself out right now, but in a little bit different flavor of the day. But it really is playing itself out. You know, that makes me think of again another message that came with that Pisces moon time because it was about, as you said, cutting things away. So, but it was also about talking about walking your own path.
Right.
So that moon time was about figuring out what your path is.
Right.
This moon time, as we're going to talk about it, is about what path are you taking and where is it, and what are you going to get?
Going with you.
What are you going to get from it?
Right.
So, you know.
And how you're going to walk it.
And how
that's the important. That's to me the most important part of this cycle that we're moving into. It ties right into the last one. That Piscean moon talking about, okay, now you got to walk your path. You got to clear your obstacles out of the way so you can walk this path. You determine what the path is. Now when we move into this next cycle here, now we're talking about, okay, how are you going to walk this new path? How are you going to keep the forward progression going? How are you going to keep the forward momentum going? You know? And you have to make choices. And that's where this heavy Legba energy that we're in is dealing with those choices. You know, and that ties into that Pataki, beautiful Pataki that you shared with us.
And we're going to talk about that Pataki. So, you know, jumping back to that proverb, because you said something that made me think about the proverb for the last new moon. Talks about the patient blames the doctor for his illness.
Yeah.
So when we are looking at the moon message of saying, what are you going to cut? What are you going to remove? How are you going to identify the unity that you have with whoever, or are you going to be in unison with whoever? And then also it says versus, you know, walking your path, figuring out what that path is. How do you see that proverb, the patient blames the doctor for his illness, how is that playing itself into walking your path?
Well, I think about it in the context of if you aren't clear and you blame the doctor, you'll never walk the path. You know, that, again, we go back to that self-evaluation. We go back to a Legba. You know, when you're dealing with the energy of a Legba, you're really, in certain contexts, you're dealing with choices at the crossroads, where you're at a crossroad and you have to make a choice. If you don't have the ability, if you're not in alignment with the energy of a Legba, you may only see 1 or 2 options at that crossroads. You may not see 3, 4, 5, 6 options. And if you keep making the same choice over and over again, which was spoken about in the reading of the year, then you will find that you can't walk your path. You keep walking around in a circle. So in order to walk this path successfully, when it talks about the patient blaming the doctor for his own illness, that's a lack of the Elegba energy and the lack of the ability for you to see the option. There's an option here that says, I need to look at my own faults. I need to reevaluate myself and not just blame others. But you have to be able to see that as an option, as a viable option. You have to see self-evaluation as a viable option. You have to see honesty and humility as a viable option. If you don't see it as an option at all, and you just go bananas, and you cuss somebody out, or you keep doing the same thing over and over, the patient blames the doctor for his illness. You'll never move forward on that path.
Right. And the doctor is the one, that could be life. The doctor is the one that's bringing you, saying, okay, this is what's going on, this is what's wrong, or this is the medicine that you need.
Right.
And so if you are dealing with self-reflection, looking at yourself within that, holding a mirror up to yourself, which is that Libra, which is that Oshun energy, which we were moving into, but we were already dealing with that.
Right.
You know, it was building itself up with that previous moon time. That's why it's saying, look at yourself.
Right.
But if we're not willing to look at ourselves, as you say, then the information that is delivered to us, we're not going to accept it, we're not going to get it, we're not going to understand it.
And you're going to be left behind. And that's where we're coming into this new cycle, because you're going to be isolated, you're going to be left alone, you're going to be left behind. You're going to find that you are isolated and by yourself. And in a lot of situations, we think we're right. And you can think you're right all you want. That's fine, but you're going to find that you're by yourself. You're isolated, you're alone. And so as we move into this new cycle, when I think about that Pataki that you shared, Ogun ended up being alone because everybody ran from him because of his lack of alignment with the energy of Elegba. And
with that, I'm going to share that. And then, because I know you're ready to talk about that, and I'm ready for you to dig into that, Ogun. So let's go ahead and talk about that energy for this moon time. So this moon time now that's coming up April 4th, again, it's a Libra Full Moon. It is 14 degrees. It's in house 6. The sun is Aries. It's also 14 degrees in house 12. And the proverb for this moon time is, what you create, you inherit. So I'm going to say again, what you create, you inherit. Let me just say, before we even go into the Pataki, let me just mention a little bit to our audience about how important this moon time is, and that we were actually being prepped with the new moon to deal with this current full moon that we're going to be moving into. These moon reports are always activating themselves within 8 to 10 days prior to the due date of the moon time. So if you get the moon report, you're going to see that those energies were already happening. The 14 degrees of the sun and the moon right now. Now, 14 degrees in itself, that is a highly sexual, sensual, and it's a very impregnating number or vibration. And it has a strong Oshun energy with it. So very interesting. I'm not going to try to get too esoteric, okay? But it's really, pay attention to the fact that the moon is 14 degrees. That's Oshun. That's Libra, Venus. The sun is 14 degrees. That's Aries. That's Mars. Okay, so we got this female energy and this male energy, both at 14 degrees. Dealing with very impregnating, high creative, sexual type of energy. So with that, we have these two cardinal signs, cardinal energy, dealing with starting something. It's really assisting us in creating something big. That's very, very important. When you have both the male energy and the female energy, the sun and the moon, at this 14 degrees, that indicates for us on a collective conscious level that we are ready to receive something. We're going to be doing something.
Mm-hmm. We're going to create something.
We're going to create.
Give birth to something.
We're going to give birth to something. Exactly. So, with that being said, from an Orisa and a Ogun perspective, when the message was given, what you create, you inherit. It's right on point with this degree with the sun and the moon, because that then means that what we are going to be doing for the next month or so, we're going to inherit something. You know, when the male and female come together, they create, there's an impregnation that occurs, and what they inherit is a child, right? So if they do not invest in that child adequately, then later on in their older years, they're not going to get a very great or good dividend.
Right.
So I use that analogy to talk about this moon time.
Right.
If we don't really understand what this energy is we're dealing with,
you're going to lose the opportunity.
We're going to get something
You're going to get something you don't want.
We don't want. And so now with that, now I'm going to go into that Pataki. Now I'm going to go into that Pataki. Okay. So, this Pataki goes with this moon time, and it is saying Ogun inherits the title, the one who takes lives. So long ago, when the Orunmila were making their journeys to and from Aye, the earth, Eshu was originally known as the one who takes lives. It wasn't Ogun, or the one who had permission to kill. So first it was Aleva, or Eshu, that had that title. Now, at this point in time, Ogun and his very good friend Orunmila were wanting to travel to Aye, earth, from heaven. And before they did that, they went for divination to find out what they needed, what needed to be done for them to be successful here on earth. So they were new in experiencing being a human, or in the human element.
Right.
That's really important to pay attention to. So they were told to first offer sacrifice to Eshu and not to kill anything when they arrived on earth, because that was only the right for Eshu. Eshu only had that right to do so. Ogun was strong, and he was a fierce Orisha who reveled in his fierceness and thought himself to be more powerful than Eshu. And with that, he refused to offer the little man Eshu the sacrifice. But Orunmila, who understood the importance of sacrifice, immediately completed the prescription. And so they both descended to Aye. They both descended to earth. So on earth, Eshu did not give Orunmila a hard time, but he did tempt and tease Ogun continuously into a fury. And this fury was he created a combative situation between Ogun and the humans. So he really agitated that relationship that they had. Now, Ogun, tried not to hurt the people, but the situations, they really just came to a boil. He has a very hot temper. And one day, in a fit of anger, Ogun, he just killed like 200 human beings, which in Yoruba thought means it was like a lot of people. Right. It's not really 200, it was a lot of people. And so afterwards, many humans were afraid of him, and they ran away. And whenever he came into their villages, they didn't want to have anything to do with him. Now, Orunmila, he saw what was happening, and he reminded Ogun to complete his prescription. But Ogun was too upset to be agreeable. So Orunmila then made another offering to Eshu, and this he did on his own accord. It was not part of a prescription, but he decided that he wanted to placate Eshu, give him an offering. And after accepting the offering, Eshu accepted it, and he promised Orunmila that from that point on, he would always avenge any wrongs that were done to Orunmila. And so with all of that being done by Orunmila and not being done by Ogun, afterwards the people sought out Orunmila for his advice, and Ogun became known as the one who takes lives. So he inherited the title.
Right. The reputation.
Yes. The title, the reputation that Aleva or Eshu first had. And from that point on, people were very fearful of him.
Right.
So there are some messages on that But I'm going to turn this back over to you. You want to talk about what that means?
So it's going to mean a little bit of different things for everybody. When I hear it, there's a couple of things that I hear. First and foremost, it's very important for us in this time period to be careful of ego and self-sabotage. Because you're looking at a story where, you know, when you look at the energy of Ogun, it is an energy that's unyielding, uncompromising, consistent. That's why they link Ogun to the heartbeat. That's why they link the energy of Ogun to gravity, because those things are consistent. It doesn't work for some and not work for others. The heartbeat is consistent until you check out. Gravity is consistent, whether you black, white, red, blue, whatever. So that energy of Ogun is a consistent energy, the consistent, uncompromising, unyielding energy. But you are not the Orisa. You are a human. You and I are humans. So we have to be careful in our dealings with other people during this cycle, not to be too rigid and not to be too uncompromising. Because we may find that behavior gives birth to isolation, gives birth to us being alone in a time where there should be unity and cooperation. I'm also reminded that a little sacrifice here is much better than eternal sacrifice or big sacrifice later on. You know, because if Ogun, again, if he was not so rigid, even after being advised by Orumila, if he had just made sacrifice to Alegba, then he would have not found himself in isolation. You know, you're dealing with a situation where even after seeing what happened the first go-around with the humans, killing the humans, he still refused to make offering. And so for us as humans, we have to look and make sure that we're in alignment with Alegba so that when we get to those kind of crossroads situations, we see all the options that are available. We see the option that says, okay, ignore this person, or okay, walk away, or okay, let me get this work finished. You know, we see all the options and not just our ego. You know, this time period, if you look at it too, this Pataki and this time period is telling us that this is a time for Egbe. One of the strongest things that we could create right now is Egbe. Strengthening, fortifying Egbes, and creating Egbes where they don't exist. If you live in a city and if you live in an Orisha community and there's not a male Egbe and there's not a female Egbe, this would be a good time to create one. When you see in the Pataki that Orumila and Ogun are traveling together to Earth, that's Egbe. You know, that's Egbe. They're coming to Earth together on a mission. And you can't have Egbe if one half of the Egbe going this way and another half going the other way. So this would be a good time to create Egbe and strengthen and fortify the Egbe that you already have. Good time to have an Egbe party, you know, for your Egbes that are in existence. You know, good time to have an Egbe party. So that we can inherit the goodness of those relationships, the goodness of that accountability, you know. And what that Pataki also reminds me of is that Egbe creates an opportunity for mutual respect, because Orumila, having respected Eshu, the little man, he gave his boys, even gave voluntarily. And so in return, Alegba gave something to him and said, well, I'm going to always protect you anytime anybody do you wrong. So there's a mutual respect and a mutual appreciation there. So in this time period, not only are you looking at the creation of Egbes, but you're creating an environment that breeds mutual respect, that inherits mutual respect. And I'm reminded of another portion there which talks about not being a doormat to others. Because even though Orumila gave offering to Alegba, he was not Alegba's doormat. And Elegba showed him through his own action and through his own words that he was not a doormat. You see? There was a mutual respect there, and no one was taken advantage, and no one was mistreated in terms of the relationship. Not because I'm giving offering to you means that I'm your doormat. Not because I'm dobalaying to you means that I'm your doormat. Not because, you know, I'm your husband and you're my wife mean you're my doormat. You know, you're dealing with Egbe. Egbe being Egbe of priest. It could be Egbe in terms of husband and wife. It could be Egbe on the job. You know, very beautiful, very powerful Pataki for us to look at and move forward with during this time.
You know, one thing I was thinking about was I mentioned that this Pataki is speaking about the early times when the Rumale were coming to Earth, before they were identified as Orisha, you know. So they were still trying to get settled into this realm. And so at this point in time, you know, we know that Ogun has learned so many lessons because there's so many Patakis about him and, of course, all the other Orisha messing up, you know, and figuring out, oh, you know, he got to a point where he began to punish himself.
Right, sure.
You know, that type of thing. So with that, and that's a very powerful ashe to carry. All the ashes are powerful, but we're talking about Ogun, and that's a very powerful ashe to carry because it reminds me that he really dealt with responsibility.
Oh, yeah.
You know, he really dealt with looking at himself and judging himself, critiquing himself.
Right.
So sidetrack a little bit. What does that mean to carry that kind of ashe? I mean, this is such a strong Orisha, you know, very arrogant.
In some respect, yeah.
You know, well, they are, you know, I mean, it says that they are.
Right,
yes.
right.
But yet, in time, he became humble.
Yeah.
So, what does that mean for you?
Well, it carries a lot of responsibility, and it's not pretty. Because when you think about, for example, there's a particular story where the Orisha were making their first entry into Aye. They came into a forest, and there were a lot of groves and trees and things like that they couldn't get through. And the different Orisha tried with their cutlashes and their implements to cut through the forest, and they couldn't. And you know, Ogun sat back and allowed them. They're doing their thing. Yeah. They couldn't get it. Then Ogun went and tried, and he was able to do it. But it's never a pretty. That energy when you're doing things is not pretty. You may be the first one to do something, but it's going to be tough. It's going to be hard. You're clearing the way in a lot of instances so that somebody else can come behind you and do it even easier or even prettier or even more grandiose. So there's a lot of things that I find with the energy when I have to do something that it's very difficult. It's very difficult to do, but it's something that has to be done, and when it's done, everybody benefits. And that reminds me of one of the things that people don't talk about a lot with Ogun is the fact that Ogun is very generous. It's a generous energy. It is an energy that, you know, when you're talking about those Patakis, a lot of time Ogun is hunting, and he's hunting for the community, or he's defending the community in a fight. Even when he's making a mistake, most of the times you find he's hunting or fighting or something on behalf of somebody else. Very much a giving type of energy. When we look at Ogun in modern society, you're looking at technology. You're looking at things like the consistent operation of the computer and the energy that brings. the consistent tap, 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 electronic tap, 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 tap of ones and zeros that takes you to your website and takes you to Facebook and all these other things, takes you to Abibintubikasa and all these other sites that we go to. You're looking at a consistent drive to make things better. You know, I have a phone, but I could only use the phone in my house. And so what happens, the energy of Ogun comes into effect, and technology implements changes that leads to the cell phone. Then you have a cell phone and it's too big. And then you do more energy giving, more Ogun giving, and now you have a cell phone. And first it was a flip phone. Those things are things that are giving. People get paid for it, but everybody benefits. And so that's the type of energy that Ogun has. And when Ogun, that energy is in motion, I find that, you know, it's very giving. There's things that I have to give freely and in a good, nurturing type of way. You know, that's what that energy does. It also gives you, to carry that energy, when you're carrying it in good alignment, you don't see fear a lot of times. Or you don't keep fear with you. You might be fearful of a situation you're walking into for a moment, but that's not a long time type of feeling. Because you know that you have the spiritual tools, the spiritual machinery to clear those obstacles. You know, so even for people who are not initiated to Ogun, when you want to get a job, a lot of times you do it for Ogun. Because you might be nervous about going into the interview, you're nervous about the competition, you know you don't meet all the qualifications, but you do that Ebo to Alegbon Ogun, and Ogun will clear that way. So you know you don't remain fearful. You know, you don't remain in that scared type of space. You don't remain in a whining, woe is me kind of space.
So, as you're talking, and you're making some really strong, very important points, because again, this moon time has a very strong Ogun energy. Yeah. So it'll be interesting for people to see, look at, journal for this moon time, which runs from now up until at least 8 to 10 days prior to the next full moon. Okay, that's the energy of this moon time. How many people out there are going to have to be the first to do something?
Right.
You know, when you talked about Ogun being so generous and giving, not for himself but for others, we know that doctors are ruled by Ogun.
Right.
And medicine men and women are ruled by Ogun. The military are ruled by Ogun. The butcher,
right.
You know, the police. So all these
the barber.
The barber. These are all serving,
right.
Serving jobs.
Right. And most of them have egg bays.
Yes, very much so. All these different organizations. Yes, exactly. So, you know, if those that are listening to what you're saying, they'll kind of really take that in and look at, okay, so for this moon time, am I going to be doing some things that I'm going to have to get out there and be the first to do?
Right.
Very interesting about the fear part, where you talk about that Ogun has the tools that are needed to set the fear aside, because he really truly understands what he has.
Right.
And that's really important.
Yes.
To during this moon time, for those that do meditation, really be aware of the tools that you have, and not only appreciate them, but identify what those tools are.
Right. And work them.
And with that, then you can move forward, because you can create whatever beautiful thing it is you want to create.
Right.
That's very, very, very.
And then how many people are going to switch jobs? Moving into a new job, new opportunity, new business opportunity. You know.
So some of the things that this moon time talks about also is talking about listen to your gut instinct. You know, when we talk about how I'm going to work through it, what are the messages for this moon time? Listen to your gut instinct. And talks about identifying what you want, or it's important for this moon time for people to identify what they want and then be prepared to work hard to get it. And that goes right back into what you were saying.
Oh, yeah. Yeah, sacrifice now so you can inherit what you want. And also that hard work and energy of Ogun is always hard work.
So it's very much about, you know, this moon time is going to expect us on a collective conscious level to really put a lot of hours in to burn the candle at both ends. We're really going to have to put a lot of work in to get what we want. This moon time is also speaking about one working towards restoring balance in their health and other areas of their lives. So, again, working hard to bring something into balance. And this is
giving birth to something, you know, giving birth to balance.
Right.
And giving birth to health.
Yes.
You know.
And all of it's going to take work. It also talks about this is a good problem-solving moon time. So that goes into, you know, Ogun. So how is Ogun's energy with problem-solving?
Yeah, you know, when you go to Ogun and you have an issue, a lot of times, you know, you talk about the issue, you talk about the plan, or Shorsi also. We don't want to leave Shorsi out there. But when you go to those particular Orisha and you have a problem, you actually can, what you want to do is create a plan, create a system for how you're going to address this problem. And that's what you're looking for from them. You're looking for that help to get the system of what I'm supposed to do so I can win, so I can move forward. And those Orisha are very good with that because they know and are familiar with your shortcomings and they're familiar with your strengths, and they will help you clear those obstacles out of the way, move those obstacles out of the way. A lot of the problems that we deal with, some can be self-inflicting, and so when you have those problems and you have those type of issues that keep sabotaging, again, we get back to that sabotage, pray to Ogun not only to clear the obstacles out of your way, but to help you clear the obstacles out of your way. Because there's some action that you're going to have to take. There's some choices that you're going to have to make. We go back to that Alegba again. Some choices that you're going to have to make that'll help minimize the sabotage, you know. And so this is a good time because we're talking about, you know, Shun, Alegba, Ogun. This is a good time to really tackle some of those kind of problems by giving offering to Alegba, giving offering to Ogun, so that you could see the sabotage coming in advance, so that you can see other good options ahead, so that some of the spiritual blockage that you have can be moved. Because when that Ogun energy is high, you want to strike at the big things. Because if you could align yourself with that Ogun energy and it can move things out of your way, you're halfway home. You know, so this is a good time. That Ogun energy is strong. Work it.
Work it.
You know, that moon full, and it's a blood moon, you know, Saturday night at the shrine should be your club, you know, so that you could get to the real things that you want in life, the real goals that you want to have. You know, pick a big one. When that Ogun energy is strong, you go out there and you work it.
So pick something big to go after.
Pick something big,
Pick something big.
And that reminds me, too, of in that Piscean moon, which was still in some of that time period, it talked about tackling, you know, a big challenge or big opportunity, doing something challenging.
Okay.
You know, doing something challenging.
Okay, to build your confidence.
To build your confidence, right. So we're still walking with that too. So if you take this time when Alegba is strong, Ogun is strong, or Shun is strong, you can work down on Alegba and Ogun to, again, help you see the obstacles, help you see good options, help you clear the obstacles out of the way, you work some Oshun with that too, and you could create something beautiful. You can inherit something beautiful. You can create something that everybody can benefit from. And that will draw people towards what you're producing. It could be a business. You know, working that Oshun energy too that we're moving into. Because that Oshun energy is an energy that also deals with the bringing people together. Which is why in the real world, if you're driving and you drive by, you know, a beach picnic if you're in the islands, or you drive by the park and the people are playing drums or playing music, you want to stop and you want to go and see what's going on. Because that party energy, that Oshun energy, that energy draws you close. You know, you go to when we were younger, in our younger days, and you go to the club, and the club was packed and everybody was inside, then you want to go inside because you're drawn into that Oshun type atmosphere. So you want to be in there. It draws you close. So in this time period here, when we're dealing with Oshun also, you work out a Libra Ogun, see those good options. You know, make sure your character is in alignment and so forth. Work that Ogun to clear your obstacles out of your path. Then you can create something beautiful that will draw people to you and to it. You know, create a business. You know, create Egbe. You create Egbe, and it has the right type of energy. You draw people towards it. Draw people into it. You know.
So you're actually talking about, you're giving a lot of info based on this part of the reading here, which says, this Libra Moon time is truly about us, the collective, coming together to make something happen. And not only for ourselves, but for others. In order for there to be any positive outcome, all who are involved should have a balanced head as well as sharing the same understanding of the focused goal or intention. Now, you have the warriors. They are an Egbe. They are very clear about their job. Each one has their own specific job, but they all do that job as a collective. And then we're bringing in Oshun with this moon time, who brings the beauty of something, the feeling of wanting to belong and enjoy not just being by yourself, but mostly with being other people, a very communal type energy, because she does deal with community and civilization and all that. So you are really giving a lot of clarity to that part of the message of the moon time, because it's saying, you know, we at this point right now have all the right energies lined up with the warriors, with Oshun, to be able to create something very much not just for ourselves, but for others. So us as human beings have to be really clear and aware about what is my intention, what is my goal. Then this moon time message also talks about who else is going to be on board with you. Because we're talking also about, with the Ogunmola aspect, that's your destiny. So what we create right now is going to truly affect our destiny heavily.
And I think about marriage, when you were saying that, because marriage is an Egbe.
Yes, it is.
The husband and the wife, that team, that's an Egbe. It's a very important Egbe.
So everybody needs to be on board. So this is a very good moon time if folks are not on board in a marriage. For each person to individually figure out what their role is.
Or collectively come together. You have to do
it individually understand your role within this egg day. And then you can work as one, as an egg day.
And have the courage to work on the things that you may struggle with. The courage and the spiritual confidence to work on the things that you may be struggling with in the relationship or in the egg day. Because this is a good time to do it.
Yes, it is. Yes, it is. And so also this moon time speaks on having a backup plan. Because there is a kind of energy out there which can throw a monkey wrench into what you're doing. So since this is a moon time that talks very much about preparing, working hard, figuring out where you are in the scheme of things, then know that the monkey wrenches are lingering out there.
Mm-hmm.
So it's a very good time to have a backup plan, i.e., let's say for those out there that maybe, you have a babysitter and you take the child there all the time. Maybe they may not be available for whatever reason. Something happens and they have to take care of something.
Right.
And
they
so,
didn't get the moon report. So they didn't do their ritual like they were supposed to.
Right.
Yeah.
Exactly. So, have a second babysitter on standby just in case. These are just examples of things that can happen with this moon time because, as you said, with Ogun, it's not going to be easy.
No.
There's challenges, right?
Mm-hmm. And it's going to make you stronger for it. That's right.
I say. So this is really a very powerful time. I sent a message out to all the moon folks, moon folks are the subscribers and followers of the moon messages. And, I said, don't look at this moon time in fear.
Right.
Take the opportunity, take this as a grand, beautiful opportunity to make something really beautiful happen for yourself.
Right. Mm-hmm.
So we really want to be cognizant of creating, what is it we're going to create? Like, I can't emphasize that enough.
Right.
What are we going to create? Because those that are into astrology and all, or astronomy, and they're looking at this moon time with, all this strong energy that's going on with it, with the eclipse, that's a very powerful one. So then those that are concerned about, blood moons,
right.
Very interesting. Blood moon in itself, just blood moon, just that word blood moon. When you have a blood moon, that's also known as a hunter's moon, too.
Right. Mm-hmm. That's it.
So just by itself, you just have a lot of very strong masculine, go out there and get it type energy. I want to mention also that we've got some other planetary transitions that are going on. That is really complementing this whole moon time. So for those that are interested, Batala's planet, which is Jupiter, is going direct April 8th, 4 days after this very powerful moon time, and it's going direct in Leo, and it's in House 1, which is ruled by Aries. So fire.
Right.
Everything's fiery. Action-oriented. Everything. And then on that same day, April 8th, we have the moon is going to move into the sign of Sagittarius, which is a sun sign.
Yes.
You like Sag, right?
Yes. I happen to be one.
Of course.
Love some Sag.
Of course. And so it's moving into a fire sign, and it is going to be in House 5, which is ruled by Leo.
Yes.
Which is also on the planetary level ruled by Sun. So, for this whole week, we have all these heavy, strong transitions that are going on that are dealing with fire. But one of the really positive things that's going to help us with this moon time is the transition with Batala's planet, Jupiter, going direct. Because this direct movement is in the first house, is going to have like a really strong influence on our reputation. So when you talked about that, about our actions, our behavior, it also has a strong influence on our patience. Either you're going, it can improve.
Right.
It can.
Yes.
And it has a strong influence on our generosity, and of course you talked about Ogun. So this is like giving a very, very beautiful, strong influence on the aspect of Ogun.
Right.
Not the violent,
bloody,
even though those that are out of alignment can fall into that.
Right.
But if you're consciously aware of what's going on, you can really feel this really beautiful transition and tap into that.
And it'll help with your creativity in creating that beautiful thing that we were talking about earlier.
Right, right. Now, with the moon moving into Sagittarius on that same day, that's going to really, really heighten people's intuition. And so, I was in communication with someone already who was like, what's going on? I'm really, like, feeling, they're like ping, ping, ping. Their intuition is, like, through the roof. And we all know that these movements, planetary movements, are really happening before the due date.
Right, yeah.
So, just be, like, really aware. I mean, we're really being given such a beautiful gift right now.
Right. And for those of us who may not have, a batala, make a trip to the mountains. Make a trip to the mountains and go and sit and meditate and tap in and listen. Take some nice deep breaths while you're up there. Look at the beauty. This is springtime, so things are blooming and green and lush with opportunity. And so go and take in some of that and tap into that Obatala energy. This is a time where if you have some kind of shake-up situation, it should be easy for you to bounce back from. Take that trip to the mountain and just sit out there and just chill out. And spiritually suck in that Obatala energy. Suck in that, feel that Sagittarius. Feel it. Definitely.
Most definitely. So, for all those that are listening, really just be conscious about tapping into the very high aspects of this energy. Unfortunately, there are going to be those that just don't roar,
Right. And we're going to see that. We're going to see that. Hopefully not a lot, but we'll see it.
Hopefully not a lot.
We'll see it.
Hopefully not a lot. Before we close, I wanted to just mention that one of the messages of this Pataki that we mentioned, it talks about not every shoe is comfortable to wear. Ogun wears this title, this shoe that Eshu has given him, the one who takes lives. He wears that. He doesn't seem to have a problem with that.
Right. He doesn't have a problem with it.
No.
But in the context of this Pataki, it doesn't benefit him. And it doesn't benefit everybody. So it's not something that we would want to aspire to do because we're not the Orisha. We're mere humans.
I said. And so through his life lesson there, we can observe and see that that's a very difficult burden.
Right.
He carries it well.
Right.
But it's still a burden.
Right.
And so with that, again, be very careful about what you
inherit.
What you inherit.
Yeah. And that, I remember that, I think about that, I should say, in the context of being dogmatic also. Because sometimes we have situations where we are culturally dogmatic. And we don't want to inherit the reputation of being culturally dogmatic. We don't want to inherit the reputation of, they're great priests or priestesses and so forth. But or they're great students, but you don't want to be a great person all by yourself. You can do that. You can do that if you want to, but that's not ideal. And you run into situations where if you could do it, you could tough it out alone, but that's not the ideal thing that you want to do. You always want to have egg-bay. You always want to have good relationships. You don't want to have to be cleaning off that old full of other people looking at you in a negative connotation or talking about you in a negative connotation because you're so dogmatic, or because you're so rigid and uncompromising.
I say, and so many times, we've been in this for a long time, And so many times when Ogun keeps speaking to someone, that's something that they should really pay attention to. That no matter how good they are at what they do, they have a potential to be by themselves.
Right.
So if he keeps talking in your etas, whatever the message he's saying, also be very aware that somewhere there's too much rigidness.
Right.
And so that's really important to pay attention to.
Right. Gotcha.
So with that, before we close, do you have any other messages or anything that comes to you that you would like our audience to take away from
I think
I
was looking at that Sagittarius piece, and I saw a picture of an Asha, and it reminded me that in some circles, the Sagittarius energy can correspond to Oshosi also.
Oh, yes, indeed.
And Oshosi oftentimes sits very close to the Batala.
Yes.
So this may be a good time to tap into that Oshosi energy also, which deals a lot with hitting the target with precision. The archer has to aim straight, stand straight, account for the wind, account for the distance, account for the moving animal. The hunter, the archer has to do that. And so that Oshosi energy helps us to hit our goal, hit our target. And we don't want to negate the energy of Oshosi. In my own personal experience, when I go to the shrine where Ogun is and Oshosi is, I open up to Ogun and Oshosi. I ask each of them specific questions that I may have. I ask each of them if I can close, because I work with Oshosi as if it's its own Orisha.
Exactly.
And sometimes I may go to that shrine just to go to Oshosi specifically. So in this time, if we need precision to hit that target, we may want to do some work with Oshosi also during this time to hit the target and navigate successfully through the unseen obstacles. Some of the unseen obstacles that are in our own heads.
So for those that who do not have Orisha, because we have many different people that listen, many different spiritual systems that listen to our show. One of the things that people can do in tapping into the Oshosi energy is to meditate or work or create something that will help you to become focused when the moon is in Sagittarius. Because the moon moves into Sagittarius several times, at least once a month. Okay. And so for this time frame, because the eclipse can affect us for months and or years to come, depending on how long, how many minutes, the eclipse is occurring. So at least, I would say for 3 months, those that are really wanting to work with this kind of energy, do something meditative. See yourself holding a bow and arrow during when the moon is in Sagittarius. Stand erect and do your tree meditation, or something like that. So there's so many different ways that you can connect and tap into this energy, because of course Astrorisa Moon work is really about you creating something within yourself, within your own spirit, cleansing, clearing, identifying, and then creating something very beautiful that will help you move forward.
Right. Sure.
So,
that's what I would want to add. Also, subscribe to Astrorisa Moon if you haven't already. I am a subscriber. I love it. I sit with my family and read the reports to my children so they can know what's going on. So that when they go to school, for example, today one of my kids had a little issue with a little child.
Okay.
And I was telling her this morning before she got out the car, I said, that blood moon is coming Saturday. Today is Ogun. So in the traditional Yoruba calendar, so people are going to be kind of tripping. They're going to be, just, y'all be careful. So said, so done. My wife sends me a text saying she had to go to school because this other child was calling them names and, trying to agitate them and so on and so forth. So get your moon reports. I see these things happen in society all the time, and you see these things happen and I say, man, if y'all had y'all moon report, y'all would know, what's going on. We have to use these tools, and we salute you. We salute the Ashe of Yamaja. We salute your household, your ancestral lineage, etc. Because this work is monumental, and you are a gift for all of us, so that we can look and pay attention and have a good example of what to look for and what to expect and what to anticipate coming up. So get your moon report, subscribe. It takes one less trip to McDonald's to get your moon report for the month. We have to be more sophisticated as a people, so that we could navigate through these obstacles and these traps and these pitfalls that's going on. So with that, we say Ashe. We appreciate you. We appreciate this opportunity, and we push forward.
I say, well, I thank you so much. I do. I thank you so much. And I'm so glad that you made it, because I know you're such a busy person. A father, a husband, a priest, a businessman, etc., etc.
Sure.
So, however, you mentioned Egg Bay several times.
Yes.
And so I look forward to us discussing more on Egg Bay.
Yes. We have to have that conversation. Right now, there's a lot of things that we're looking at a lot of situations we're looking at where Egg Bay can help, can assist in moving things forward, making positive progression. When I talk about Egg Bay, I'm talking about a group of people who, as Chief Ajamu Ibarra Turun told me, he said, an Egg Bay is a group of people who have not only committed themselves to doing a particular kind of work or particular kind of worship or particular kind of ritual, but they have committed themselves to doing it together. So it's not just that, okay, all of us are initiated to Egungun, all of us are in male rites of passage, but we have a commitment to do that type of work together. And we're in a lot of different areas we're lacking Egg Bay. And that Egg Bay that we need would bring accountability for when certain situations take place. It would bring support. It would bring encouragement. It would resolve issues so that we are not arguing online or verbally throwing internet jabs at each other. But we could resolve some of the small sit-down, face-to-face. We could resolve some of the issues like that. And again, we talk about inheritance. Our children need to see us in Egg Bay so that they could have a model and example of how grown, sophisticated adults look in a self-contained environment, leadership development environment, etc., etc. It's hard to promote the idea of leadership to your children if they don't see you in leadership. And Egg Bay would give them the opportunity to see you in leadership. When you talk to Dr. King's children and Malcolm X's children and, the children of these elders, a lot of the ladies' children too, they talk about those times when, they were getting ready to go to bed and Malcolm X came by and so and so and such and such and such and such was meeting at our house. So and such was always at our house all the time. Those are things that children remember. And they look up to you because you as the adult, they're seeing you in leadership. They're seeing you with these powerful people. They're seeing you making important decisions. So we need that type of thing right now. But I want us to talk about that. That would be a whole other show.
Oh, yeah.
You know, because we have to put those structures in place.
Yeah.
It's so very vital. I mean, I don't want to even get started on that.
I know.
But it's very vital right now. Very, very vital. Very important.
And so we're going to do another show.
Yes.
And we're going to talk about the importance of egg bags.
Yes.
And we'll just go deep in that as well. I thank you so much.
Thank you. Thank you
Baba
for having me.
Ogunmola for joining us this evening. Thank you all, listeners, for chiming in and hanging with us for this time. I hope that you are able to walk away from this discussion with something valuable and that you have the most wonderful and productive and creative moon time. Inherit something beautiful, wonderful, and something that you and your community and your family can use. Until next time, remember to find your truest self, follow the moon. Adabo.